And I want to see now if Origen feel like they might have to ban one of these traditional OPs, because we are still in a situation where red side is Camille, LeBlanc, Rengar as the very traditional bans, and blue side has the flexibility. What we see from Origen from a start is just like banning out the jungle. Ivern was obviously a pick Xerxe used really well last week, and a pick he seems to enjoy a lot. Kha'Zix is just the most overpowered jungler if you ignore the fact that Rengar exists, because Rengar is banned almost every game.
The next most.
Kha'Zix comes in as the next one, who's also a little bit over the top.
Yeah, we've had 3 jungle bans here to start things off, and there's the LeBlanc ban that we've been seeing quite a lot of as well from Unicorns of Love. But as you said, I mean, this is kind of what we suggest. So far, no Camille. Should be the last ban for Unicorns. We'll see if it's the case.
It should, but it is the Unicorns of Love.
You never know when it comes to the Unicorns, and they managed to get it the last time. There's the Camille on blue side.
See, this is exactly what I mentioned. Like, if Origen are like unsure if Unicorns are gonna leave one of the OPs up and be like, ha ha ha, you have to first pick it now no matter what, because otherwise we're gonna get it, and we have like 500 counters ready, you ban it. And Origen feel like they had to do it. They actually also banned Camille versus H2K last week. So either it's I'm afraid of Unicorn's strategy, or it's Satorius not wanting to play Camille top lane.
Also possible. The Malzahar is a strong support pickup that has been banned off right now. There's still the Zyra. There's still, of course,
Jayce.
Yeah, Zyra, Jayce. Jayce was banned quite a lot last week.
So the reason Jayce can work as a first pick is because you can flex him. He can go top lane, he can go mid lane, and flex picks in the first pick phase is really, really powerful, because as you guys have now seen over the last week, basically, of competitive play, the first phase is where you often see picks like AD carries, supports, junglers, or flex picks. And the reason I highlight the first 3 roles is because you can clinch those roles very easy. If you pick Ashe and they do not pick an AD carry, you ban Varus Jhin, as an example, and you get an advantage. But because Jayce can go 2 roles...
And there's the Jhin.
There's the Jhin, one of the AD carries. But because Jayce can go 2 roles, you can still take him in the first phase, and then try and bait the other team into thinking, is he mid, is he top?
Well, the Unicorns themselves are the masters of the mind game, but for Origen, you have to wonder if this is something that Satorius is comfortable playing, if it's even worth for the flexibility, because he's typically been known as this AP tanky top, and Jayce is so far from that. But there's the Zyra, there's the Varus picked up. So once again, pokey meta bot lane locked in for Origen. They're putting their pieces together. Yeah,
now Unicorns of Love can either match support and pick MF, or they can say, we're gonna pick a jungler here. We're gonna pick the best available jungler left that we like. Can be a Rek'Sai, can be a Lee Sin. If you look at traditional jungle picks, Elise over in Korea, and then ban 2 junglers. But the Unicorns of Love, I feel, have always something unique, and I don't think they normally follow the traditional pick and ban phase.
Yeah.
And I actually quite like them saving jungle for later, because most junglers might be open here, and we don't know what Xerxe has prepared. He's a guy known for many, many different picks.
Yeah, well, we enter the second phase of bans, and we'll see what they decide to remove this time. But with the Shen locked in for Vizicsacsi, they've now banned away the Rek'Sai. That takes off what Wisdom was playing last week. This is interesting. Keep on pinching that pool.
And what Unicorns have done here is they saw the Jayce first pick and said, okay, we're going to pick both solo laners. So now where the Jayce goes doesn't really matter for us, because we have Shen top, who can build Ninja Tappy and handle the Jayce. Yes, he gets pressured early on, but you can then try and protect him a little bit with jungle pressure, or you just leave him there and you play strong bot side and you use Shen ulti to gank it. And also Ryze mid lane can definitely handle the Jayce as well, meaning Unicorns of Love are not too afraid of where Origen sends this mid lane pick.
Yeah, Tom Kench is banned away by Origen as well. Yeah, I mean, it is that flexible pick, but it seems like not picking up the MF support for themselves kind of says, you know what, we can handle this bottom lane even if that's banned away.
Yeah, we would normally see MF ban here from Origen, unless they maybe think Hylissang doesn't play it. There's still things like Karma you can go for, which is okay. Versus Zyra, you will struggle a bit in the laning phase, but you can survive it. It is tricky, though, also playing against Varus as a Jhin. It's a very strong lane from Origen on the bottom side. And typically, when you play Shen top, you want to have the strongest bot lane, because then you can push them in, force dives with your jungler and Shen ulti. And Origen are not picking MF or banning MF. But we mentioned some of these wacky picks Xerxe might have in the jungle.
Yeah.
Origen, again, afraid of some of the unconventional ones.
But the jungle pool has been so pinched here. But look at this. He locks in the Rumble. We saw him play it last time around. It was flexed out. And just no bones about it. Locks it in on the first rotation of second phase for Unicorns.
That's
the other one that's up there.
I'm glad they hover it, because I want to see a jungler that can 1v1. the Rumble. And when Elise gets to jump, when she gets to land a cocoon, she can burst a lot of these junglers very, very effectively. You also have Jayce already to add physical damage with the Varus, so you can actually go for an AP jungler. Cassiopeia means that Jayce goes top lane, Cassio goes into the mid lane against Ryze, a matchup a lot of mid laners do enjoy playing because you can snowball pretty hard. Actually, fun enough on both sides, but a lot of mid laners like to take the Cassiopeia into this matchup.
All right, they've chosen the Olaf, and I mean, it could be able to dive that backline, but they have got some seriously squishies in the back, and final lock-in for Unicorns is going to be that Bard on Hylissang. Interesting choice.
Yeah, once again, whenever we have these Unicorns games, the pick and ban phases are very different from almost every other team in the world. Like Rumble, Jungle here, Bard is not a support we've seen being played.
And you compare to Origen's pick and ban, you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's very, very standard. Even the Olaf jungle is something people use once the jungle pool gets pinched a bit. I think Elise could still work here to get even more early ganking pressure. Because when you play without proper tanks, you want to snowball early. You don't want to have these like 40-minute games where you don't get a big advantage and then you have no tank in a late game team fight. Obviously, Olaf has a strong early game. And clearly in this case here, Wisdom wants to try and see if he can run over Unicorns of Love.
We'll have to see if Wisdom, where he puts his attention, especially this game. He talked about a very strong bottom lane for Origen. We'll see if that ends up panning out for them or if Samux and Hylissang are going to have no trouble hanging on as the coaches walk off stage, shake their hands. Leduc and Sheepy, no strangers to this stage.
The coaches have learned if you just like walk over and get close to the guy and then turn around and keep talking to your team a little bit, you can actually get 5 more seconds of discussing what's going to happen in game.
Just a little bit of advantage if you possibly can. Need as much as you can possibly get. So week 2 starts now for the European LCS. Now, if you guys think that the Unicorns of Love will be able to take an easy victory here, get on Twitter, go to @LOL Esports, hashtag UOL win. Just like that guy. Now, if you think that Origen, on the other hand, can do it, hashtag OG win is the one you want. We'll find out who takes victory in game number 1 as we load up onto Summoner's Rift.
And I want to see now what Unicorns of Love with this Rumble jungle can do again, because it actually worked pretty well last time, even though Xerxe felt like he could have done it much, much more. That's a good attitude to have, though. You just won 2-0 in your first LCS game, and then you go to Twitter and say, yeah, I could have done more. Could have been even better.
Yeah, it's a great attitude for a new player coming in. I mean, as you said yourself, 17 years old, very, very new to the big stage.
Oh, Pirate, this is a classic one.
Let's see how this goes.
Zyra supports want to move into the lane early so they can start planting these seeds around. Unicorns hoping they could move in with multiple members, and they're just sending Hylissang and Samux forward. Not revealing there's more members hiding in the bush, hoping that Origen were trying to contest the mid lane control, the lane control. Nothing happened, though.
No, but Origen did get a chance to get a little bit of deep vision in, so they can see when the red buff gets taken. Samux and Hylissang found out. Just going to have a little bit of fun on the bottom side, and we're off to a normal start after all.
And I think Unicorns of Love gambled quite a bit in this pick and ban phase here. The bot lane with Jhin and Bard can really struggle against Zyra Varus. And also with top lane, we know Jayce is going to have control. And that's the problem with Shen, you know, if he gets pushed into his tower and gets chunked down to like 50%, his ulti is not that valuable because he can't really leave the lane without losing his turret then. Or maybe he's too low to actually join a big fight in the bottom lane. So the fact that Unicorns do not have winning side lanes and a jungler who cannot gank might be a problem early on for the Unicorns of Love.
Well, we have seen them play a little bit differently in the pick and ban phase. We'll see if their early game starts out a little different as Xerxe having a little bit of trouble, finally gets that smite down to start things off. So we'll have to keep an eye, especially on the junglers. But I do want to talk about this top lane because this is definitely a different type of champion for Satorius. And even though he, you know, I would say was the shining light of Origen's performance last week, I mean, it's a far cry from victory. He's going to really need to prove that he can handle this champion. Yeah,
100%. Satorius actually had a good week 1. He's been one of those guys, whenever he played in the EU Challenges scene, he was always like good. He was never a superstar, he was never like the greatest player, but he was good, he was solid. Origen said instantly, this is the man we want. When they were rebuilding the lineup, he was the first one they signed. And they wanted to make sure he was there and he was ready to build the team with Origen. And I think he showed up in the first week. My problem for Satorius is that he's really good at enabling carries. He's really good at setting up someone else to carry. But he doesn't have really a carry on his team that he can rely on yet. that's what we got to see from Origen. One of these two Tabzz and NaeHyun, they have to really evolve into a carry.
Oh, speaking of carries,
good start.
In the mid lane, Exileh. Oh, the flash follow. Oh boy, that was close. All summoners burned in mid. No kills.
No kills, but a good aggressive start here. Just when we talk about Origen having members stepping up to carry. Obviously, we can see from Satorius, as you highlighted Pyra, he's now picked Jayce himself. So he's saying, I can also try and carry. I can also try and be the man we play around, because you want to utilize a pushing lane like Jayce with jungle pressure. So you take that tower and you can use that further onto roam. But now Exileh, he's probably gonna die.
Summoners, Wisdom is ghosted on in, and Exileh sees his life flashing before his eyes. Autos a second, and that's gonna be first blood. 3.5 in to NaeHyun.
So Exileh did not want to recall instantly because he wanted enough gold to get tier. He returned back to the lane without flash, and it was pushed all the way to the turret of NaeHyun. Very, very easy gank from Wisdom here. And great start again from Origen.
Yeah, it's exactly as you said. You want to try and snowball your victory as fast as possible. NaeHyun kind of feinting a little bit by going for all-in on the kill, and then he comes right back around, bringing Wisdom to the party this time, and now up to the top. He's going to force Chachi to shadow dash back to safety. Axes keep on flying. Wisdom is all over the map, though, so far.
I mean, same last week, honestly. We highlighted Satorius as a member who did well. I think Wisdom also deserves praise. All over the place on the Rek'Sai 2 games he played. Had a ton of farm as a jungler, had very high impact as well, because Origen did go even in the early game. The first 15-20 minutes, they were even against H2K.
Yeah, this is a guy that does have a lot of experience. He spent the last year in European Challenger Circuit, but a lot of people may forget he was on the Rox Tigers World Squad a couple years back.
Sadly for him, he didn't get to play during Worlds at all, but he played some games. Obviously,
technically was still on the squad.
He was definitely on the squad, and he did play some games in the LCK, but Hojin had the spot, who then got replaced, and then Peanut came in. I don't think it's fair to say Peanut is a bit of an upgrade over both of them, maybe?
Yeah, well, Wisdom's still trying to kind of prove he's got that mojo here.
He's coming for Peanut.
He's
starting with Origen in the ULCS.
Hey man, you got to start somewhere. All right, Samux, he's locked up. The hail of arrows, everything lands onto him, so he is very chunked out. You said you got to be careful on this Jhin, and he's got the CS lead, but it doesn't matter if you end up going down.
No, it's actually interesting that Origen's bottom lane has not been able to get more control here with Zyra Varus. Such a good 2v2, and also against a Bard. That is one criticism for this Origen bot lane, is they play very passive. They don't actually go for super aggressive all-ins. And that's something we saw last week as well. Yeah,
I mean, it's a little weird when you think about it, because you look at the score lines and you're like, oh, Hiiva died so much, they must be going in and getting the fights. No, it's just he's flashing forward in fights.
Yeah.
Laning phase has been very passive for these guys, and when you have a super pokey lane like this, you got to see more aggression.
Yeah, because we know at level 6, Unicorns of Love's composition will kind of enable so they will come online, because they will get ultis like Shen ulti, Exileh can roam with his ulti on the rise. Bot ulti is fantastic at setting up these big 5v3, 5v2 dives in the bottom lane. So the fact that Unicorns of Love, especially in the bottom lane, are just allowed to kind of sit here and actually win on CS is a problem for Origen.
Yeah, we have to see a little bit more aggression here. We also see where Wisdom ends up going. He's back to his own jungle for now. If he decides to keep the pressure on Exileh, it would be interesting to try and keep the Ryze down. But, that's a ticking timer in every game you see a Ryze.
It is. So is Rumble jungle. Fantastic mid game, obviously, from a Rumble in here. His weakness is the fact he doesn't really gank early on. But Wisdom, yes, he got that first spot in mid lane. He hasn't really been able to do much else. And Xerxe has been farming on his own. Every other lane, as we just highlighted, has been doing just fine as well in terms of CS. This is some of the damage Samux can take, and Body's not going to help. That's this little wacky, useless heal that just pops down on him. That's not going to help against this poke.
No, but so far, he is keeping ahead in the farm game. Just about by 10, starting to be evened up as Tabzz has free reign of this farm on the bottom, and they try to continually push Samux, and he's not allowed to free back here, as he has to keep dancing away from the plants. Hylissang taking some poke too.
Obviously, I have to highlight that Samux is getting a lot of extra CS from plants in this one. Just noted, it actually is counted in spectate mode.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's still some gold, but it's just not as much as the minions.
Yeah. Gold difference is 200 gold in favor of Samux, so he is ahead. He definitely is still ahead. But the gold is always more important to look at than farm anyway, Pyra.
Very, very
Top lane,
true.
though, we're going to get a fight.
Looks like Wisdom has been found out by Xerxe and Exileh. Vizicsacsi, they've all come for him. Throw down the red carpet, a double taunt, but Chachi did not quite do enough in time. However, they picked up Wisdom, they picked up Satorius. Exileh grabs himself a double.
It's getting worse now for Origen. Pyra losing 2 members in the top lane. Exileh moving first. We talked about that roam potential as a Ryze. Yes, he didn't use the ulti to get to top lane, but he used it to then intercept Satorius when he tried to retreat back to the turret. And Unicorns of Love getting 2 extremely important kills.
Let's take a look at this one more time. Wisdom, he was found out before he could even go in, but at least they managed to take down Xerxe with him.
Yeah, Xerxe actually went super aggressive on his taunt here, flashing in as well, but really big mistake from Wisdom, because Exileh had left the mid lane quite some time ago. And you are a no-flash champion that has no jumps or anything. So once you're stuck in river, and your mid laner is not moving first, you gotta get out of there instantly. Otherwise, this happens, you get collapsed on. And therefore, Wisdom goes down. Xerxe, a level above him. Ignore the CS with the junglers, because again, there's so many small camps to get. But the gold difference between these 2 teams are just not big enough for Origen and the start of this game here, because now these ultis are here from the Unicorns of Love.
Now, the Origen, the composition, we talked about having to snowball, and they had a decent start, but it's all about even, and we're 9 minutes in, even on the kills. As you said, the gold difference is so minimal. It's 600 right now. And Exileh, he's right back into it with those 2 kills.
Yeah, and I do want to praise Wisdom for going to the correct lane, which is the top lane. Like, you want to attack the global when you play against Shen, and also when you have pushing priority for Jayce. So him being top lane is not bad, but then him not reacting when the enemy mid laner is missing and could roam for you, that was the problem. And some of that miscommunication we saw from Origen last week. It's very, very standard though. Just a heads up to the Origen fans. When you get 5 new players together, it's very normal that you have communication and synergy problems the first few weeks.
And this is the quality difference too. You look at a team like the Unicorns of Love, they have added some new players, but there's still that backbone of Vizicsacsi, of Hylissang, of Exileh now after a full split. Communication is just going to be better for this seasoned LCS squad when you compare it to the likes of a lot of newcomers in Origen.
Yeah, it still feels weird though, Pyre, to look at an Origen lineup without any of these big known names. Like, there's no Peke, there's no Soaz, Mithi.
Well, the owner said they tried to get Peke, but he wasn't available, unfortunately.
Of course, that's true.
But still, it is a little bit strange. It kind of feels like an Element situation when you have a team that was built around a superstar player like Froggen, and then they change over a couple of years, and they have all these players that are different.
And now we're getting to see one of these roams to the bottom lane. We mentioned much earlier, Shen has ulti, Exileh has his ulti on Ryze, and Xerxe, he doesn't even need to get close, he just needs to ulti over the wall, and that should be enough for Unicorns to win that fight. So whenever they move down, the Ryze and the Rumble, Origen's bot lane, they need to be very careful and start backing away and kind of surrender pressure in the lane, because otherwise, if they stay on the tower, they die.
Yeah. When you talk about a team that needed to try and snowball in the laning phase, can you step behind? Wisdom's going up towards the top side.
We just talked about this.
Spotted on this ward, though. That's clutch. And Chachi's getting out of there with his low health bar.
Yeah, this is where we see now the bottom lane for Origen has to react and move back, because their team from Origen just moved multiple members to the top side. Hiiva is still staying around, though.
Rumwarp's coming in. Hylissang, he's going to flash, but he couldn't quite get the stun off. Hiiva, they've opened up the curtain call in the back, though. Samux is looking for more. They brought Xerxe as he just came off Fountain, and a quick pickup. Hylissang with the kill credit. However, Origen knocked down a turret first.
Yeah, this entire play was easy to follow on the minimap. Origen said, we know we have to go top lane and get tower. So they send Wisdom up there, they send NaeHyun up there. That means Origen's bot lane, they are 100% sure that they will get killed if they stay near the turret in the bottom lane. So they had to back away much earlier. No reason to surrender a kill and 3 summoner spells, because it was a 100% guaranteed play from Unicorns. And that is a really annoying mistake to see, because Origen should know exactly what was happening.
You got to have the reaction time, and unfortunately, they still gave 1 life. Let's take a look at it again.
Because if you look at your minimap, guys, you can see Vizicsacsi on Shen has already backed away top, knowing he was going to get dove. So now, Origen's bot lane should have done the same. They stayed, however. Hiiva ends up not actually flashing out of anything, really. He goes down. 3 summoners blown. Tower obviously traded. Only good thing for Origen is they got the first turret, so they got some extra gold from it. That is always one of the good things when you play like a carry top.
We did see a consolation prize too, because they picked up the Rift Herald and gave it over to Satorius, so he'll have a little bit more oomph when he pushes sideways, I should say, against Vizicsacsi up top.
And he goes for this very standard Jayce build against tanks, Black Cleaver. What I have seen sometimes is just instant like last whisper second item as well, and it's all about just shredding armor against the tank, because you can see Xerxe is just trying to stack as much armor as possible.
Yeah,
but
saw that shift.
This is really good here from Satorius. the build, the fact he gets Rift Herald. And now what you need to do, because this is kind of funny, as solo laner getting a turret down has to be like pretty creative on how he snowballs that advantage. Because he needs to be able to leave that lane and go to mid, go to bot lane, go to dragon. If he just stays top and pushes it out, gets it back, pushes it again, he doesn't really use his advantage. So he has to push out the lane, go to mid lane, take enemy jungle camps, or recall and like lane gank bot lane while he waits for this big wave to then push back towards him. So let's see what Satorius does in this game here.
He's popping in and out of vision of Vizicsacsi, so the Unicorns do know he remains topside. Exileh was looking for an entry here. NaeHyun also trying to do the same thing, but there is a lot of uncertain movement, and now Hiiva is going to be caught in the middle of it all as the Tempered Fate lands, but a teleport is coming in. Hiiva is dancing and trying to dodge, but it's just not happening. Stranglelord comes up, and NaeHyun, runner on the backside. Tabzz is going to pick off Exileh. Chachi's come into the picture. Hiiva should not be hanging around, and he goes down, but now Chachi's going to fall. A double kill over to Tabzz. And it looks like we've got a 2 or 3-for-1 trade in favor of Origen.
Yeah, this time Pyra here, Origen, they were ready for this play here. We saw everyone on the bottom side already, except for just top lane, as Satorius has matched the TP. And everything was blown on Hiiva alone, which is why there was no damage or CC left for any other member.
Yeah, mistake from the Unicorns is going to cost them several kills in a turret right now. And Origen, well, you know, they're starting to look pretty strong too. Satorius was where he needed to be, and he blew his teleport to do it. But NaeHyun coming around the flank, that was great.
I mean, again, it's just Unicorns of Love using everything on killing Hiiva, not respecting the fact that Origen are here with 4 members and have a teleport as well. So yes, it's fine, you had 3 guys hitting the support, but behind you, there's a Cassiopeia, there's an Olaf, and then a Jayce as well appears on the other side.
Yeah, the thing about that is, Hiiva could have literally just like made Unicorns get nothing if he had just backed away. But he walks in after the fact. All the same, like massive, massive props to Origen for pulling off a really good play, getting themselves a bit more ahead. This is what they really need to do in this mid game when honestly Unicorns really should be looking stronger.
Well, Unicorns will only be stronger in the mid game when they use numbers advantage, which is what Shen offers because he has 2 globals. So you use 1, they match, you back away, and you do it again after, where you have a global extra and they do not, and you get that big advantage in the bottom lane. When you just basically play 5v5, Origen is just as strong as Unicorns of Love. Like, there's no advantage then to either side. And that's why Origen moving down was really smart.
It really worked well for them, and you can start to see some of the solo laners kind of rolling ahead. Now tier 2 boots for Satorius. He's got the Merc Tread, so he'll be a little harder to stop and slow down. Checking in on items for NaeHyun. He's been stacking his gear, but he already had that Abyssal Scepter. We'll see if this fight. Hiiva is caught once again. We're watching this one on repeat, and he's taken down by Xerxe. And now Unicorns on turret. And
it's not fun to keep like pointing out things like this, but you have no flash against the Bard. There was not even a minion wave you were contesting at the moment as a support, so there was really no reason to be there. You can just stand behind your turret and actually wait for your flash to be ready, because it is up in just like 5 seconds. Like now, it's actually up. Patience, patience, my friend. Just stay back for like 10 more seconds.
Hiiva's still got a few things to learn, and playing a very squishy support can definitely hurt when you're on that front line. Definitely a little bit less comfortable for him, I think, than some of the things we were used to seeing out of him. Alistair, Braum in the Challenger Series, but you know, he's still got time to learn. All the same, 5-5 in kills. Unicorns have a bit more gold back, and they were not able to polish off that turret, but they are behind Origen.
Yeah, we're gonna see Unicorns switching this 1-3-1. We always see when you have a Ryze, he goes to the side lane, fantastic 1v1. Extra mobility with ulti as well to move between lanes much faster. NaeHyun is gonna try and match, but it's very easy now for Ryze to actually call down either Shen or the jungler. And you can then just 2v1 kill this Cassiopeia, who has no extra mobility to get away. She's not running Ghost, she's running Cleanse. And that means it's very, very tricky for NaeHyun to actually sit and match Exileh. And it often means that Cassiopeia has to wait for the wave. She has to wait back, be like, okay, you push first, Ryze. I'm gonna grab it when it's past the river. I'm not gonna overextend. And that allows Ryze to roam first. So Exileh is near mid lane now.
Yeah, coming on up. They found Hiiva, Tabzz, and Wisdom. Hylissang goes over through the portal. They put the exhaust down into Satorius, but Exileh's caught up. Wisdom and Hiiva are running straight for him, and Tabzz picks up a kill. Meanwhile, in the back, they found Samux, but it's a fight on 2 fronts as Xerxe and Hylissang have taken down Satorius. A double kill goes the way of Tabzz, and it's a 2-for-1 in favor of Origen as they take the portal out.
Oh, Chachi actually had ulti ready, I think, when this fight started, but he only used it very late on Samux and didn't even get to appear here. Unicorns of Love actually with a correct move, but then failing the execution completely. They used too many members to chase after Satorius, and Xerxe didn't get to ulti early. Look at this replay here. They go for Satorius with both Exileh after he just hits Wisdom a few times, tries to then like get over there, but realizes I'm actually now caught. And this Shen ulti comes down super late from Vizicsacsi.
He can't get involved in that fight at all, and it was over just like that. I mean, Unicorns are making these mistakes, not just once, not just twice, but more than that now, and this is starting to look like a very different squad than we saw last week.
Oh, and it's one of those mistakes where, as a Shen, it's just so annoying because he was recalling to spend his gold to then TP into the fight. But he was recalling while the fight started, so he wasn't ready to instant ulti. That's why it was delayed like 2 or 3 seconds. Clearly, Unicorns did not expect Exileh and Samux to die so quickly. Maybe they didn't expect 3 members from Origen to be already in the mid lane, collapsing on them.
Well, Origen
cost them.
Have made some quicker moves. I mean, they've definitely earned a lot of the gold that's been put in their pockets, and they've knocked down 3 turrets now, all the ones on the outer. This has pushed Unicorns further back in, deeper into their own territory.
And it's been Unicorns of Love forcing fights, and Origen responding. 2 times in a row now. Bot lane play, which was over-aggressive from Unicorns, not getting any numbers advantage. Backfire. Mid lane roam was good from Exileh. Idea was correct in starting the fight when Cassiopeia was not there, but then you need the Shen to ulti down instantly. Sadly, Xerxe finished his recall a little bit too late, and then couldn't join.
But this is really interesting from Origen because last week it seemed like when the mid game hit, they looked a little bit lost, like they weren't able to keep up. And admittedly, this was against H2K, the team that just kind of like macros you to death. But against these Unicorns, they're finding these openings and they are taking it to them.
Yeah, exactly. Like 2 fights in a row. Origen just been able to match Tabzz as well, sitting on 4-0-1 on this Varus here. Much better mid-game performance from him because we saw last week he kind of struggled to have an impact once we got out of the laning phase.
And even in the laning phase, we saw him play more passively than a Varus and Zyra lane really allows you to do, and we worried about that at the beginning of the game, but 20 minutes here we are. You know, it's a 4,000 gold advantage for Origen. Not something I thought I'd be saying today.
Definitely not, but Unicorns of Love is a team who likes to play very aggressive, very proactive, and sometimes it backfires. You see the stat here from Tabzz from last week where at 20 minutes, he was the AD carry who dealt the least amount of damage.
Yeah, I'd like to see how his numbers change after the course of this week, after this series. It is just game number 1, but man, they are definitely looking great right now. Lost out on Drakes. Worth noting that Unicorns have themselves a pair of Cloud Dragons, so they'll be able to move a little faster around the map, but it certainly hasn't helped them in fights.
No, and good old Tabzz we just talked about is definitely pulling his weight here compared to Samux. Samux has done 3k damage so far. Tabzz has done 10k. So huge difference between AD carries. Been a bit easier for Tabzz though to get close and actually fire away because it's been Unicorns diving in, not aiming for Tabzz, and he's just been kind of sitting there shooting everyone and being like, all right, this is pretty easy.
Yeah, he hasn't had too much trouble. I mean, this is the thing about a very heavy damage comp and no true tanks on the side of Origen. Well, it may sound risky, but you've got so many weapons. You've got a Cassiopeia scaling into the late game. You've got Tabzz pecking away at the backline. You've got Satorius with damage shred, or armor shred, I should say.
And I think we should talk items now because there's some interesting ones here. Jhin going Ghostblade, it's not something unusual, but it's not always we see it. In this case here, because you're against so many squishies, going for lethality is actually very good, which is why Ghostblade build comes in. Jhin always goes up in priority when you face like carry top laners, because they obviously will be much squishier than the big tanks. On Tabzz' side, Edge of the Night, and also this lethality build on Varus. And Edge of the Night is something I really like against Hylissang here. And this Bard, because you can use it when you move into the fight to try and see if you can block that Bard ulti coming in, or maybe the Shen taunt.
Right.
And then Tabzz can actually stay alive in the backline.
Yeah, and he's definitely been key for a lot of those fights. Unicorns have yet to come up with an answer, but you can see them moving towards this mid side. The vision game has been very heavy for Origen around the mid of the map as well, and they continue to try and push him, but Satorius on the bottom side has pushed Vizicsacsi back continually, and he really can't stick around to defend this turret right now. Satorius can't push anymore, though. He's out of mana.
It's the big advantage we've mentioned 500 times, I think, this game is Jayce pushing in against this Shen here.
And the Rift Herald's helping him.
The Rift Herald definitely helps. That's made it even better for Satorius. And again, that's why Unicorns had a composition that was built around forcing plays on the bottom side. And when that backfired, they basically like started losing out more and more because you had a clear game plan. you now have to kind of change it in-game, but you don't really have the comp to change it.
And it seems like the Unicorns are victims of their own innovation this time around. I mean, they had some of the most interesting and the most out there draft that we saw in the European LCS last week, but right about now, this is definitely not helping them too much. I don't know if they really expected the Jayce on first rotation.
I don't think necessarily it was draft. I think Unicorns are actually papping up with this draft here. They had a very clear plan in mind of like diving bot lane over and over. Only picked up 1 kill on the first one when they used the Shen ulti, and then the next one was matched by teleport, and that suddenly meant they actually started losing out.
Yeah.
Exileh has not been able to get full control of the side lane. He's once again pushing it first, which is good. He's roaming again, but it hasn't really rewarded Unicorns anything. Because again, they lost that next fight.
Origen really have been reacting a lot faster than we saw from them last week. I'm not sure what they were doing in scrims this week around, but I mean, it's certainly working out for them. See if they can put this game away. 23, almost 24 minutes in. Obviously, the lead is not super heavy in their favor, but they do have all this map control. They can secure more Baron vision. We'll see what they can get done. Satorius is now double teamed here as he turns towards Hylissang. That damage is real. Might be able to get away here. Exhaust was burned. Satorius just trying to turn around, but he gets taunted up by Vizicsacsi. Into the minions, to the skies he goes. Vizicsacsi just tries to finish him off, but he stays strong, and he gets hit by the edge of the Bard ultimate. Turns around again, and he just barely goes down to Chachi.
But that was a 2v1, Pyra. That means Origen now sending 4 members mid lane. Hiiva.
Oh, Hiiva's way too low.
Wisdom gonna block there.
Threads the needle. Wisdom is gonna have to ult out of there, so Unicorns managed to pick themselves up 2 kills.
Oh, this time Hiiva can be a bit mad at his jungler. Exileh chasing Tabzz.
Oh, Flash instantly Tabzz. They throw the chains on NaeHyun. He gets turned on by Exileh, and now right back at it. Over to Tabzz, a shutdown for Exileh. A lot of gold in his pocket, and a double kill now as Origen are all but evaporated, and they are pinging for Baron on the Unicorn side.
Pyra, you did say the goal lead wasn't really big enough for Origen just yet. And now, sadly for Origen, it looks even worse because this Baron is gonna go down in favor of Unicorns of Love. It all started with actually a 4v3 in favor of Origen in the mid lane. Rumble ulti into Jhin ulti was enough though to clearly kill everyone.
Let's see how we got here, Deficio, one more time.
NaeHyun took a lot of damage. I think it was from the bounce from Ryze, and then into Rumble ulti. And Jhin ulti, you've already lost the fight here. We talked about how hard it is to play without frontline. Like, Olaf is your only frontline here. And
oh, he didn't frontline for the Zyra.
He didn't frontline anything. Like,
to be fair, Hiiva got caught too.
So when you have like Rumble, what Rumble is so good at is being really, really strong against low mobility squishy targets. Think of every strong AD carry right now. Varus, Jhin, Ashe. All 3 can't get out of Rumble ulti. Great. Cassiopeia can't get out of Rumble ulti. Okay, fantastic. Same thing for Jhin ulti. If you hit the first one on some of these targets and they don't flash, you're gonna hit the next one and the next one and the next one. So through insanely long range, Unicorns were looking at squishy members and just fired up every ulti.
And they've got so much mobility too. When they're not yet in combat, those 2 Cloud Drakes mean they can close the distance that much faster. They've now been able to pick up, I think, a Mountain Drake on the back of it, as we saw in the aftermath of the fight, but they have not only closed the gold gap, they've eclipsed it here at 26.5 minutes. Origen, all the advantage they had, disappeared in a couple of fights.
Disappeared completely. They still have Satorius in the side lane as really the hero they're looking at, but because he's now been shut down a little bit, he's not as big of a threat anymore. We're looking at, again, Tabzz and NaeHyun in team fights, but it's really hard, as we just highlighted, against some of this long-range poke from Unicorns of Love. I'm just going back on my own screen to rewatch how the fight started again. Because both NaeHyun and I believe it was Tabzz took quite a lot of damage just when the fight actually started and had to back away.
They were split up. I mean, when you get double teamed, they weren't respecting the fact that even with not the right numbers, Unicorns could still make some big plays. Wisdom now running forward to try to get into this backline, but he's got no backup, and he is gonna go down. He's trying to run through it all. One shot misses, a second goes wide, but meanwhile, Exileh comes around the side, picks off Hiiva. NaeHyun is slowed down and trying to slither away to freedom, but he's stopped, and Xerxe barbecues him for a double kill. 3 kills on the Unicorns, and they are marching down mid lane.
Just impossible for Origen to fight right now, because every time they even get close, Unicorns just unleash everything they have, and no one can stay alive here from Origen. Wisdom A little bit of Rambo first. The team definitely wasn't ready to follow.
Certainly not. So that is the communication issues coming out once again, and it's going to cost Origen an inhibitor turret down mid at 28 minutes into this game. Unicorns have fired back and are full throttle ahead to try and close this game out. We'll see how it all began once again with Wisdom charging forward heedlessly.
So basically Wisdom knows Exileh is top lane. That's why he's trying to force a fight in here. But once again, the backline of Tabzz and NaeHyun cannot follow. Like, it's just impossible to follow a Righteous Glory Ghost Olaf if you're a Cassiopeia and a Varus. Like, you just can't follow.
They went away from what was making them win these fights in the first place. It was Unicorns that were starting these fights that Origen were able to win. The last couple times, Origen, they have started off by being in a bad position and trying to make something happen, but it just hasn't been at all. So it has been a game of reactions, and Unicorns are getting the better end of that deal this time around.
Yeah, basically what Origen were hoping to do was have Satorius push out top lane with the Jayce and then have him move down and join the team and start, like, see if they can poke away on these mid turrets without Unicorns Olaf engaging onto them. But just simply due to the lack of mobility on the back line against Rumble ulti and Jhin ulti and even Bard ulti to set up the fight, Origen is not able to kind of step forward and actually siege. They're simply not able to properly siege on a turret without getting engaged on.
They're relying very heavily on Satorius to try and keep pushing, but the split push has kind of run out of steam right now, and he's only got a little bit more time left on the Glimpse of the Void. But meanwhile, Unicorns have not let up the pressure on the bottom side of the map, and with no inhibitor in the middle, Exileh can clear away some minions quick, and they're going to have to react to that.
And you have to respect this Rumble jungle pick from the Unicorns of Love. If you can't punish them hard enough early game, Rumble gets to like 1 or 2 items, magic penetration, and there's no Locket Aura adding MR. An AD carry barely gets anything, a mid laner can get like Abyssal Scepter, maybe boots to get some MR, but that's not enough against Void Staff Liandry's. And that's where Xerxe can just be like a legit carry from the jungle.
I think you also just have to respect Xerxe as a player at this point. I mean, he's come in 17 years old, and you know, he's played in Turkey, championship there, but coming in at such a young age and playing so incredibly well. He's not died this game, by the way, on this Rumble.
Yeah, and I think actually the coolest thing about him is he doesn't enter LCS and just makes like solo queue plays. He doesn't try and just like carry by making the sickest big outplays. He actually just knows where to be in the map. He understands where he needs to like either counter gank or maybe put pressure down, put vision down, and where to be when team fights break out. Because he hasn't done anything flashy.
Yep.
But he just knows exactly what he's doing.
And they know how to catch Hiiva, that's for sure. There's the red carpet, and Xerxe with an unstoppable kill. Exileh helping him out on that one, and that's enough to send Origen scurrying back to base as another inner turret's gonna fall. 31 minutes, things are looking grim for OG.
It is a problem when you're no longer able to win the game through split push, and you surely can't win the game through team fighting. You're kind of running out of options, Pyra.
Yeah, well, if there's one thing that Origen still have okay for them, it's the fact that Tabzz is doing quite a lot of damage. I mean, 21,000 I'm just hearing from stats. And Samux has really not been able to keep up with that, but I mean, it's just not enough right now against everybody else on Unicorns.
Yeah, I think Samux doesn't care at all. I think Samux is like, if I can ulti or snare with W and kill one guy, I've done my job. Because whenever he ultis, Origen runs away. And whenever they're running away...
Except Hiiva, because he's caught in an ult.
But when the rest of Origen tries to run away, Exileh can then flank, he has ulti, Xerxe can come in with his ulti, they can get to the backline really easy.
Right, speaking of backline,
well,
here comes the realm war.
Satorius.
Oh, he's going to be caught out. Xerxe's on the chase. You can see Xerxe coming in. This is not going to end well.
Just take the farm, man. Just get the numbers.
All right. He flashes. He might just get out, but he's going towards the wrong base.
Yeah, he's not getting out, Pyra. I don't know actually why he flashed. Unless Origen feel like they can rush Baron, but that's the thing.
Oh, he's teleporting. Like, there's the taunt.
Yeah, of course.
He's off cooldown. What are you doing, Satorius? Origen started Baron, but they peel off.
Oh, the flash only made sense if Baron was actually alive at the time when he got ganked. But Baron was still dead for like 5 seconds, so him trying to buy time was never gonna work. That almost worked.
That almost worked, but Xerxe stands firm in the end. And he got the better of him.
Yeah, I get what Satorius is trying to do here. Buy time, pull multiple members after him, and his team can rush Baron. Sadly for Origen, it was still dead for a few seconds. It spawned, when he had flashed, and Unicorns were already moving back to stop him. Hello!
And now it's a flank, right in, they catch Tabzz, they catch Hiiva before the curtain's even open. Xerxe has gotten the kill. Hiiva is dancing, but he can't avoid them all, and Samux gets another taunt for Xerxe. Unicorns are marching into this, and they're looking for the victory. Wisdom, NaeHyun are the only ones left alive, and it's just down to the snake. And that's it, a triple kill for Samux.
What a great late game from the Unicorns of Love. Winning that mid lane fight after some beautiful ultis into Baron. Complete
What a style
there.
ultimate. Exileh says, guys, we're taking this one right to the Nexus with no one left to oppose them. Unicorns of Love take down the Nexus, take game one, and damn, they looked good doing it.
A good late game doing it.
There's always an asterisk, Deficio.
There is. I think it's worth highlighting that Origen had a 3-4K gold lead. Origen were winning the mid game because Unicorns of Love tried to force plays without numbers advantage with the globals. TP for TP, the roam into mid lane where Xerxe wasn't ready to ulti because he was recalling. Those were big mistakes from the Unicorns of Love.
Absolutely.
But they show in the end why they're considered a better team, because when they finally get a chance to strike against the low mobility carries of Origen, they do.
Right. Still, Shaky and Origen, to their credit, managed to take advantage of those mistakes on several occasions, and it really wasn't until Satorius gets 2v1'd and then they get caught out in the mid that things really started to go awry for this team.
Yeah.
But this is the problem when you deal with the top tier LCS squad. Even if they make mistakes, they will pick you apart if you make a bigger one.
I just feel like what we have seen now from Origen is they can play early game, they can team fight definitely in the mid game.
No kidding.
But late game, 3 games in a row now, they fall apart. It becomes individual plays that backfires, and then they lose fights.
And with that, though, Unicorns, they've got game one. Origen, they've lost one, but they've got some time to think. Now, we're going to go ahead and hand it back over to the analyst desk to break down how the game happened.
Thank you, eSport fan Pyro. And yes, same things as our conclusion of the casters. This is what we've seen. The fact that the Origen is able to hold their own in the early game. We're going to show a little bit about how they do that. But you actually wanted to highlight something that isn't very positive for them. And I think if they could fix Hiiva's positioning early, they could be even further ahead.
We saw early on last week that Hiiva tends to make these sort of solo queue decisions, right? Where he's sort of moving around the map, not fully aware of what his team is doing. And we saw this once again very early on into the game. So you actually see in this replay, this was a cross-map play that was going on in the top side of the map, where Hiiva, he stayed for a bit of extra farm, and that results in his death. Yeah, like there's just no need for him to do that. And again, he's just in a position where he shouldn't be. And this is just something that we've criticized Hiiva for, like last week, and we're still seeing it again this week.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot from communication and Hiiva's positioning as well. In the first replay, the teleport had just been used by Satorius. In the second one, as Deficio pointed out time and time again, the flash was unavailable for Hiiva. This is a problem we see with Challenger players when they step up, and Hiiva has had a wealth of experiences in Challenger, a couple of games from Gambit a long time ago that he subbed in. This is a guy that shouldn't be making these kinds of mistakes from his wealth of play. And unfortunately, playing squishy champions right now means you can't. This guy's used to playing Alistar and just flashing on people, popping his ult, damage reduction comes on. Can't do that on Zyra. Not really the same kind of play style.
As we see the Unicorns of Love convening after their win, and despite, as said, those mistakes from Hiiva, Origen again make it work in the early game. They were up 4K gold at 16 minutes up until it turned around through moves like these.
I mean, this team fight was actually really good from Origen, because you have to remember that UOL actually thought that they could go for this fight simply because Exileh had the inside track in the river, right?
Why does he even go
because, I mean, yeah, okay, so he's baiting, right? He's baiting Xerxe, but the fact is, Exileh thought that because he had inside track on the river, they could force that fight. They had the numbers advantage. There's no way that NaeHyun could actually come in and support them. But then a fantastic Zyra ultimate in that closed location, a bad TP from the Shen, just resulted in an overall really good team fight for Origen.
But after this, there's a significant composition error out of what Origen were trying to do. So you got Varus. You want to try and push forward in the mid lane. We were talking about controlling the side lanes, which Satorius was already doing. However, Tabzz never had the vision and the security to move forward because Hylissang's Bard could just ult him time and time again. If he ever moves forward, they die in the mid lane. And it released all the pressure. Unicorn's got a load of wards and eventually leads to the 2v1 in bot lane. And that's the point where Origen really dropped the ball, because as soon as they see the Bard, they don't have enough time to react mid lane. They don't have the vision control. But this pressure Satorius creates on his own is insane. 2 versus 1 and keeps them there for so long.
I really want to highlight how well Satorius is playing here, because he's drawing 2 members to the bot side, and just look at the positioning of Origen. They realize they need to force a play.
If that Q hits, they win that play.
But they realize that they need to force a play, and just look at how slow they are at making this movement. Satorius is at this point like, okay guys, I'm dead, and only now are they just getting to the turret. And this is just the communication that we're seeing within Origen. The fact that they're not able to force these things as a unit, the fact that Satorius is so far pushed up with Origen not executing on that pressure is just a demonstration of why we keep calling this team kind of like a challenger team.
Yeah, it's rough to watch because these fights are so long. Origen don't seem to be tracking the teleports, the Shen ults, this kind of thing is playing against them. I liked the draft they had for the most part, and if they'd been able to secure vision, I actually think they could have done a little bit better in that mid lane. Game 2, I maybe don't want to see Origen get baited into lane advantage picks so much, because Unicorns have showed us they don't care about the lane. They pick, rough matchups knowing that they can get out of the mid game and, start catching people with ultimates, start team fighting so much better than Origen.
And as we've seen from, their performance rather versus H2K, they do well, but then you're up against a team that is so good at capitalizing on a small advantage. Here, the Unicorns of Love, we have to say it. You mentioned the Bard ultimates, but just the coordination between the Ryze ultimates, Shen coming in, Jhin, Bard, and even the Rommel ultimates, which of course aren't easy to hit. It just all comes together for the Unicorns of Love, and that's something that you can't learn in 1, 2, 3 at a team like Origen.
What I do think is quite interesting, though, is that we've seen some of the faults from Unicorns of Love, because we do have to remember that there was a mid-game fight or two where, like, Exileh was playing too aggressive. He was using his Ghost aggressively, getting caught out and giving Origen more advantages. So even though we criticize Origen a lot, there's also some criticism there for the Unicorns of Love in terms of their over-eagerness and willingness to just go for those fights when they're not always necessarily in a great position to do so.
All in all, a very interesting game. We are going to take a break to try and work out how to take Blood Moon Diana's mask off.